Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about today is what people are seeing and experiencing in everyday life when it comes to being of the prepared mind. I get sent pictures and emails and videos, and if you would like to do so, my email's in the description box below. So this first email comes in from a community member. She said, I'm going to a local farm this morning to get cucumbers to make pickles for the first time. On their Facebook page, they advertise a wheelbarrow of animal feed for $10, and it varies from day to day. This place sells it for $10 for the whole thing. The reason they have to sell it for animal feed, it's because it's less than perfect to sell, just like grocery stores. Thought I would pass this information along. Maybe other local farms are offering the same deals. Well, thank you. That's a really great idea. Huh. And here's an email from a community member with a picture. She said, thank you for all the prayers for my husband. We are doing great. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, sweetie. He's out of the hospital. And this is some of the stuff that I got. Thank you all very much. Well, you're welcome. I'm so happy that both of you are doing so much better. Oh, now see, these are the kind of preps that I love. These are like the travel size preps. Yeah, these are great. Thank you. So for the community member that wanted to do pickles, well, she sent me an email with her pickles. She said, I've never canned pickles before. I made 2 batches, 1 dill and 1 medium spicy. Ooh, yummus. Love it. So here's an email from a community member with a picture. She said, I emailed the company Back to the Roots about reusing the jars initially. They were for tomatoes and jalapenos. They said it was safe to use them and they are safe for food and food grade. Just wanted to pass this info on to anyone knows anything different. I'm planning on keeping them. Attaches a picture for reference. Thank you. So here's 2 pictures and 1 video that I want to share with you from a community member. These were sent to me. They were taken at the government assistance office, like food stamps and welfare office in Pennsylvania. And someone actually drove their car through the front entrance. What the actual story behind it is, I do not know. Or, did they just lose control of their car? I'm not sure. But take a look. So here's an email from a community member. She said, I checked my weather app here in central Alabama yesterday. There was a smoke warning. That's all it said. About 7:30, I went out to shop and there was a weird haze everywhere. Also weird smells like burnt motor oil and even strawberry strong scent. I suddenly breathed in while driving. It's weird. That is strange, especially the strawberry scent. Huh. I wonder what that could be. So here's an email from one of my best friends in the UK. And I haven't heard from her in a while, but she has been crazy busy. So she gives me the updates about what's going on in the UK. And she left me some links, and I will leave them in the description box for you. She said, I hope all is well with you. It is. Thank you. She said, sorry I haven't been in touch with for quite some time, but I've been mega busy knocking out paintings. She's an artist. And when I tell you, I have some of her paintings up here. When I tell you, oh my God. She said, one after another for upcoming exhibitions in September and October. My deadline is fast approaching, so I have been putting most of my time into my work and have had little time for much else. Oh no, sweetheart, I understand. Do you have any new designs? Because I just love your work. She said, I have made sure not to swear in this email, so you're perfectly safe. She said, right, I have some news for you from the UK, and I use the term news very loosely. I told you earlier this year about all the strikes that were going on here. Yes. Well, some sectors have accepted pay deals and stopped further strikes from some sectors still continuing to strikes. And now hospital doctors are supposedly going on strike. To be honest, there's too many to keep up with. I see a few headlines and that's all I know. Well, I know that your post office was on strike because of the hack and everything. Well, now our UPS is going on strike as of August 1st. So we're catching up with you with all the strikes. She said also, just as in the US, the UK is also experiencing a retail apocalypse. No kidding. We have lots of retail stores, pubs, restaurants, supermarkets closing or have closed. But the strange thing is some of these chains are opening new stores. So go figure. What the heck? Talk about contradiction. Here in the UK, we had a chain store called M&Co, which sold ladies' fashion. There was a store in my town which closed down during the very first COVID lockdown. Apparently, they went into administration in 2020, and earlier this year, they closed all 170 stores. Then, according to another BBC article from December 11, 2022, the clothing chain collapsed again. However, an article published on June 9th, 2023 states that M&Co would be returning to the British High Street as they plan to open 50 stores over the next 2 years. Okay. Poundland, the UK equivalent to the US dollar stores, have been closing stores across the country, but are supposed to be opening new ones, and Iceland supermarket is doing the same. So you guys are getting all the dollar stores like we're getting all the dollar stores. There's one on every corner. She said, I suppose it makes sense to close the less profitable stores and try their luck opening up new stores elsewhere. Also, I think some stores may be closing as their lease is ending and they have decided not to renew. Iceland supermarket has closed 11 stores so far since the beginning of this year and another 5 to close from this month, but they have announced new stores will be opening too. Why are they contradicting themselves? Also, Habitat, a UK home furnishing store chain, are closing all of their shops, but will be operating online. Okay, yeah, a lot of places are doing that. Argos is another retailer that sells a bit of everything from furniture, home furnishings, children's toys to everything else, is also closing more stores. And they were bought out by Sainsbury's a few years ago. So now with these Argos closures, many Sainsbury's supermarkets have an Argos ordering and collection point within the premises. Argos also has an online website, but for me personally, it's an absolute nightmare trying to get things delivered to me now, as certain items show up as not available for delivery to my town. On a couple of occasions, I've had to have my items delivered to my hairdresser who lives in town next to me, and she brings them over when she comes to cut my hair. Thank goodness I have Amazon for the majority of my online shopping. That sounds like something I would do. It's so funny. Here's a story real quick. So a sponsor had contacted me, right? And they wanted to give me items for free or whatever. And because they wanted me to do a video for them. And I was like, yeah, sure. It was, I can't remember what it was. And they're like, well, we won't deliver to your PO box. And I'm like, whatever. So I gave them my address, my house address. They're like, your house address doesn't exist. I'm like, that's kind of funny. And then my husband was like, well, it's probably because we had everything blocked out on the internet because my husband works for the government and we're allowed to do that. Okay. So, so I said, I got a hold of my neighbor and I'm like, can I have some stuff sent to your house? She's like, yeah, that when, you get stuff in the mail anyway, because I generally sometimes give it to her. So I sent them her address and they're like, all right, I'll be there in like 3 days. And I'm like, yeah. So my address doesn't exist. Thanks. That's okay. I don't care. So anyway, She said, that's just a few of our store closures. And again, there are far too many to keep up with. That's it for me now. And I will try to email you again. Oh, I love you, love you, love you. I miss you so much. All right. Thank you. So all of her links will be in the description box below. And before I go, I have quite a few videos that were sent to me by community members. I've got 6 videos that I'm going to be sharing with you, and they are extremely educational and, you know, great reference videos and things like that. So, you know, as always, you know, do your own research and things like that. Okay, guys? I'll see you guys in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless. Ciao.
Have you heard the theory of the Titanic and the Federal Reserve? Well, here it goes. So on the Titanic, there's some extremely wealthy passengers like J.P. Morgan, John Rockefeller, and the Rothschilds. But then you have Jacob Astor, the wealthiest man in the world at the time. He owned about 40% of all mortgages, and he was a Freemason who was very opposed to the idea of a central bank, whereas J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, and Rothschild strongly supported the idea of a central bank. So Jacob Astor was the only one standing in the way of a central bank at the time. Coincidentally, the morning the Titanic was supposed to set sail, J.P. Morgan, some Rothschilds, and others quietly exited the ship without any explanation. 5 days later, Titanic slams into an iceberg and it starts to sink. And even though Jacob Astor is the wealthiest man in the world, he still can't find a seat in a lifeboat, and he ends up sinking with the ship. Shortly after, these guys become the wealthiest men in the world, and without Jacob Astor standing in their way, the next year in 1913, on Jekyll Island in Georgia, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law, paving the way to print money out of thin air and completely control our monetary system. Was this a coincidence or a conspiracy?
Is it NBA or NFL? 36 have been accused of spousal abuse. 7 have been arrested for fraud. 19 have been accused of writing bad checks. 117 have directly or indirectly been bankrupted at least 2 businesses. 3 have done time for assault. 71, I repeat, 71 cannot get a credit card due to their bad credit. 14 have been arrested on drug-related charges. 8 have been arrested for shoplifting. 21 currently are defendants in lawsuits, and 84 have been arrested for drunk driving in the last year. How many of you think NBA? How many of you think NFL? Well, the answer is neither. It's the 435 members of the United States Congress.
Thank you. Let me tell you how this is going to work. We're going to be in a situation where once your checking account reaches a threshold of $10,000 worth of activity, then all of your information is going to start going to the IRS. To put that in perspective, the average family's checking account activity is about $61,000. So that's virtually everybody. So it's going to go to the IRS. They're going to hire 87,000 new agents. Part of those agents are going to be looking at that information, again, at a cost of $80 billion. At that point, if they see something that they don't like, they're going to start sending you a threatening letter. This is happening now if you run afoul of the IRS. The problem is you get on the phone, you try and call them, they'll answer about 40% of the time. If you are fortunate enough where they answer the phone, it's not uncommon at all to be put on hold for an extended period of time. They actually have a thing after about 45 minutes. They have what they call a courtesy disconnect, where they hang up on you because they're trying to preserve your time. I was visiting with the accountants a couple weeks ago. One of them, literally important case, trying to get through. The IRS won't see you in person. All of this is done by phone. Important case, was on the phone for 4 hours. They tried to hang up on her, and she literally broke into tears. So these are very real things. The last thing that we need to be doing is giving the IRS 87,000 new agents, $80 billion. There's lots of things that we could be doing for the IRS to help them with their customer service to make them more effective. There's a tremendous amount of stuff going on now that with the current resources that they have, that they could be much more effective in collecting. But again, this is certainly not the route to go. It wasn't too long ago that the IRS was targeting conservatives. Now we're seeing a situation through this Build Back Broke bill, or whatever we call it, that they're going to be targeting the vast majority of the American population. Thank you. I don't think the argument is whether or not people should pay their taxes. Certainly they should do that at all levels. The question is, how do you enforce that? People should keep all of our laws, but we don't have people coming into our homes, searching around, trying to find evidence that we've done something wrong. The idea of you hitting a threshold in your bank account that was originally $600, which would include everybody. Now it's up to $10,000, average family $61,000. The idea of your financial transactions at that point going to the IRS is wrong. That's your business, unless they have evidence that you've done something wrong. The other problem is once you centralize that information, the IRS, the rest of our agencies are notorious for actually making it such that information is not breachable. So instead of it being disseminated all over the country at various banks, all of a sudden it goes to one centralized location. And that's a recipe for the Chinese, the Russians, whoever, for some industrious hacker to get that information. So there's all kinds of things that are wrong about this. Your colleague pointed out that since 2010 there's been a reduction in funding of IRS. That's been done on a very bipartisan basis. Those were Democrat and Republican administrations, and Congress agrees. This has not been a partisan issue. Both Democrats and Republicans have agreed they've done a lousy job, and that's why they've chosen not to fund them. So the idea of hassling, and then two, not following up in a meaningful way, where the other part of the hassle is just enduring the crisis that comes with that as you're in the process of contacting them and working it out, is simply not right.
I don't think you guys are ready for this bullfuckery, but if you want some more reasons as to why you should not be shopping at Goodwill, stick around. So let's take a quick glimpse at something in this article. Less than 1/8 of the company's profit goes towards charity work. Goodwill sells free goods at a profit, but less than 1/8 of that profit actually goes to the job-related programs they market as their primary pillar of charity work. If you're wondering who the CEO of Goodwill is, it's this guy, it's Steve Preston. So because I like facts, I went on their website and discovered that I can see all of their financial information. And they're inviting me to look at their 990, so I surely will. So this is their 990 for 2022. They are a non-profit, tax-exempt company. They have received millions and millions of dollars in government grants. And right here in their auditing documents, they talk about a nearly $3 million PPP loan that they received during coronavirus, which was subsequently forgiven in August of 2021. Do you remember our CEO, Steve Preston? That's how much he gets paid every year, according to tax documents. And this is the page on their expenditures for lobbying. And I don't know if I'm reading this wrong, but I see nearly $400,000 in lobbying. And you want to know why you're seeing $20 shoes that were purchased from Walmart for 50 cents? You want to know why the prices just seemingly keep going up and up and up? Let's look at this supplemental information form. Walmart Foundation. I'll let you guys read both of these up here, but essentially Walmart has donated almost $1.5 million to Goodwill. And as far as I'm aware, that's just in 2022. Other things to look at: Goodwill has actively fought against legislative proposals to raise the minimum wage. Goodwill seized on an archaic 1938 law to justify paying workers as little as 22 cents an hour. According to Pennsylvania records from 2009, some Goodwill workers earned as little as 22, 38, and 41 cents an hour. Moving on, many people with disabilities have actually died from injuries born of Goodwill's unsafe workplace safety practices. And there have been so many situations where people have just gotten injured and they can't do anything about it because they're not technically employed there. Goodwill is an insidious organization purely out for profit. All of their product is free and they resell it for a profit, and if they don't sell it, then they send it overseas. They treat their employees and their volunteers working for them like absolute crap. They take no responsibility for any of their actions, and they're obviously being paid by big organizations like Walmart and working against legislation that would give workers a fair wage. And don't think that Goodwill is the only one doing this. There's definitely others out there like Salvation Army that are also doing this. Thank you so much for sticking around. Comment boycott Goodwill in the comments. People need to know about this.